Hey guys, so did you buy Clip Studio Paint on sale, but now have no idea how to use it? Well, don't worry, today I'm gonna try to get you well on your way to using Clip Studio Paint more comfortably and effortlessly. For those of you who don't know, Clip Studio Paint is a family of software applications used for the digital creation of comics, general illustration, and 2D animation. I just paraphrased that from Wikipedia. And so in other words, it's a digital drawing software similar to the likes of Paint Tool SAI and Photoshop. But for today, we'll be focusing mainly on the differences between SAI and Clip, as well as how to have an easier time transitioning from one to another. And for the sake of structure, this video will be broken up into 4 parts, which are number 1, the difference in feel between the two programs, number 2, useful features in Clip that SAI doesn't have, number 3, brush equivalents in both programs and how to use them, number 4, a brief explanation of the brush settings, and number 5, a demo of the same drawing but in both programs. Okay, so let's talk about some key differences in feel between SAI and Clip. SAI is more lightweight, so it takes less RAM and computing power to run. It's also very beginner-friendly and has a simple user interface. There's minimal lag but also a limited brush size. And SAI has one of the best blending engines in all drawing software, in my opinion. In contrast, Clip is much more heavyweight but powerful as a program. It's less beginner-friendly and has a more complicated user interface, but it's able to handle more complex brushes and larger brush sizes, which kind of ends up giving a more stiff and painterly feel due to the occasional software lag. Now, I'm going to mention some important features present in Clip that I haven't really found a replacement yet for in SAI version 1. Other softwares such as Photoshop will probably have these features and more, but we will mainly be focusing on Clips for now. First of all, Clip has more tools than SAI. They're not exactly tools essential for every step of the drawing process, but they definitely do make it easier for things like backgrounds and graphics. The ones that I'll quickly mention are the perspective ruler, the decoration tool, and the text tool. Also, Clip's tonal adjustment features are much better than SAI's, and I will briefly explain each function so you guys can get more of an idea on how they work. So first off, we have the level correction function, which is basically a more advanced way of adjusting brightness and contrast. And by the way, I'm just sharing my own very limited understanding of these features, and I'd highly encourage you guys to look up more information online if you really want to optimize your experience. So now we're on tone curves, and the tone curves feature is basically using curves to individually adjust levels of a specific hue. I would definitely recommend experimenting with funky shapes and combinations of different settings to achieve a unique look. Finally, I want to mention color balance. It adjusts the levels of colors in pairs separated into shadows, midtones, and highlights. I use this function the most because it's really simple and doesn't require much thinking. It's also a really good way to quickly add some tint to your drawing. Another feature not available in SAI that Clip has is mesh transformation. It's used to manipulate and distort an image in a 3x3 grid. It's not as good as the liquify tool, but much more useful than the transformation tool in my opinion. Last but not least, let's talk about assets. I think assets are the most useful feature in Clip, hands down. You basically have access to an entire library of different resources and brushes for free. It's included in your purchase of Clip, and they make it super easy to find and download. So please do check out this library of resources whenever you can. Now, let's compare brushes that feel similar between SAI and Clip. I know that this was personally one of the greatest hurdles I had to jump through when I first tried making the switch, but once you get the hang of it, it'll definitely become a lot more comfortable. There are some brushes that are pretty self-explanatory, like pen, AirBrush, and eraser, that works pretty much the same in all programs. But we're going to be talking about the ones that aren't so obvious. For starters, the general brush tool used for most of the painting and color blocking in SAI is actually very similar to both the oil paint and dense watercolor brushes in Clip. All 3 are very opaque and have blending thresholds that can be adjusted. They're great for getting that traditional painting look without all of the added frills. Next, the beloved marker tool in SAI is pretty close to the transparent watercolor tool in Clip. Both tools are more on the transparent side, but great for glazing or adding subtle shading. And lastly, the water brush in SAI is comparable to the paint and apply brush and clip. This brush is special because of the way it works. It can place down color as a brush tool or act as a blending tool depending on the amount of pressure applied. I'm also going to quickly gloss over a few differences in the properties of the brush settings. So in clip, amount of paint is the saturation of the paint, meaning that the opacity of the brush doesn't change, it's just the color that gets a bit duller. Density of paint basically works the same as dilution setting in SAI, and color stretch is a mixture of the blend/persistence setting on SAI. Okay, so it's finally time for the demo portion of this video. I will attempt to make 2 quick illustrations with both programs using a similar process from all of the information I've given through this tutorial. And our model today, of course, will be Miku. And just a side note, this part of the video actually won't be that scripted, so I'm sorry if I stutter here and there, but I hope that the commentary is still useful to you guys. So the way I did the layout for this portion of the video is basically I had SAI and clip open side by side, so I could easily switch between programs whenever I get into a new stage of the drawing process. And by the way, it's going to be split up into 5 parts, starting off with the sketch, which is what we're currently on, and then flats, rough colors, render, and then adjustments. So right now, I'm just getting a rough idea of what the expression, pose, and all the components that make up Miku's character down on paper. And actually, I was having such a hard time sketching in SAI because I just wasn't used to the way that the brushes felt anymore. They were very hard to control for me and I couldn't get the lines that I wanted right away, so it was quite a struggle. As for the tools, in SAI I'm just using the general brush tool at a very small brush size, and in clip I am using the darker pencil tool, which I actually prefer for line arting as well because it's very soft and easy to work with. And I think because I set the programs up side by side, I could really notice a huge difference in the brush engines while sketching. Like I've mentioned before, SAI is a lot more lightweight, which means that the brushes are more responsive and more sensitive. This is actually a good thing, I think, for many people, but for me, I was already used to clip's slower response time and more stable feeling brushes. So all in all, I think both programs in the sketching phase has its pros and cons, but right now I definitely prefer clip over SAI. So for this step, the flat colors, I actually don't have too much to say. It's quite straightforward, so all you have to do is just kind of outline the entire silhouette of your character and then bucket that in with a base tone, and then just kind of clip layers on top and, add more colors for different parts of the drawing. And because the step was so similar for both programs, I'm actually just going to skip ahead until the rough colors portion of the demo, where we'll actually look at the different brushes and how they might be used in different scenarios. This part of the demo is when you can really see the brushes utilized and really shine through in the process. So in SAI, I'm just using the brush tool, like the general brush tool as I've mentioned before. And in clip, I am using mostly the oil paint brush and maybe the dense watercolor brush here and there. Personally, I don't really vary the brush settings too much. I tend to keep it as default settings with a very low blending threshold so I can keep the colors from getting too muddy, and I just think that it's a good way to practice painting digitally. And because all 3 of these painting brushes that I've recommended have a blending threshold that can be varied, I think it's very versatile. You can use it for blending, painting, also blocking in colors, so maybe just take your time and experiment with how you want to use them, and yeah. And as for the colors, I'm just kind of picking based on preference and my own artistic instincts, if that's a thing. And I didn't really experiment with these 2 drawings because I was just trying to get the point across that you can still make really similar and very beautiful drawings in a program that you're not familiar with as long as you kind of put in the time and experiment. Maybe look at some tutorials too like this one. But yeah, it's definitely doable, and I really think that everyone should try out clip if you guys have the chance to. So for this rendering portion of the video, it actually didn't take that long at all because I really wasn't trying to polish the drawing, more so I was trying to clean up some really messy areas to make that portion of the drawing read more clearly. This is also the part of the drawing where I actually did use the marker tool and the transparent watercolor tool a little bit to add some subtle shading. But as for the actual drawing itself, I was using more of the oil paint and the brush tools because I needed that painterly look and I didn't want things to blend too much or else it would look kind of messy. And if anyone's curious about my one-layer painting method, I actually posted a tutorial on this maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It's been a while, so it's not exactly the most well-made video that I have, but I think it is quite insightful on how I achieve this kind of look. I'll leave a link in the description down below and also a card around this time right now, if anyone's interested in checking it out. But yeah, sorry guys, I can't really explain too much of my painting process in this tutorial as we don't have enough time. But if you are interested in how to draw and digitally paint, there are many good tutorials that I will also link down below that are available on YouTube right now. So yeah, I'm just kind of using the brush equivalents that I've mentioned previously in this tutorial to achieve a similar look in both programs. And I think by doing this workflow of like switching between the programs every step, it's really obvious to me now how easy it is to switch from side to clip as long as you know the right resources and you know how to navigate all of the different components of the program. And finally, we're just going to do some quick tonal adjustments for both of our mikus in both SAI and clip. And in SAI, there actually aren't that many tonal adjustment features, so what I ended up doing was just using the overlay layer effect to add kind of like a pinkish and bluish tint to the drawing. And in clip, as I mentioned before, I'm just using color balance because it's pretty easy to use, bit of tone curves, and a little bit of level correction as well. I think it's small adjustments like these that really bring a piece together in the end. So please do try out these features and don't be afraid to experiment. And that's about it. So here are the finished drawings. I think that they're quite similar, but also unique in their own way. And also, if this tutorial was helpful, please do let me know. I really appreciate any and all feedback. And before I go, just a quick reminder that I have an ongoing contest right now. 3 winners will get a free commission from me, so please go check it out. And thank you guys so much for making it to the end. I'll see you guys next time.